Welcome to the third video of the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's Election Focus Series. This episode is on Taiwan, its position in Asia in terms of its security and economic relations, and also its importance back to Canada as a bilateral partner and in terms of Canada's foreign policy in Asia. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much.
Well, I think Tsai Ing-wen's government has actually tried very hard to make their position clear to China. From the very beginning, when Tsai Ing-wen took over the power, she has repeatedly made it clear that she would not challenge the 92 consensus. That is to say, the consensus between China and Taiwan in terms of they all recognize one China, although they each have their own right to interpret it, what that one China means.
I think the history of Taiwan is well known. It's been an estranged province of China since 1950. The Chinese aren't very happy with the current state of Taiwan. They have tolerated, they've been forced to tolerate the existence of this separate regime. But the big question is, how is this going to be resolved?
China has never given up its claim on Taiwan, even though China, as People's Republic of China, never really ruled Taiwan for one day.
But the international context around Taiwan is also tense because under President Trump, the U.S. has kind of relaxed its commitment to the one China, and has passed several laws that allow military ships or high-level officials to come to Taiwan.
The notion that Taiwan could be a pawn or a bargaining chip for the U.S. is not new, although we do hear much more about it nowadays given the personality of the U.S. president.
Taiwan, of course, has been tied in with the U.S. since the 1950s, even after the U.S. officially broke off relations with the so-called, or the then Republic of China to establish relations with Beijing. They continued to sell arms with Taiwan. There's legislation passed in Congress, the Taiwan Relations Act, which basically requires the U.S. to assist Taiwan's defense, not necessarily to come to its defense, but to assist its defense. So the U.S. security umbrella has been a big part of Taiwan's persona and its presence.
As far as I know, I don't believe that Canada has this kind of similar act to make sure that Canada's commitment to strengthen their relationship with their democratic ally would be protected. So from my point of view, if we did not have it, this is a good time.
Taiwan is important for Canada. Just in terms of bilateral trade, Taiwan is already Canada's 11th trading partner and the 5th in Asia. Taiwan's GDP per capita, if measured in terms of purchasing power, is $55,000 US, so higher than Canada. Since there are 23 million people in Taiwan, this is an important market for Canadian goods and services.
Well, it's important to understand that Taiwan is a truly technology center in a global sense. And this has been developing over a number of years. They have great strength in semiconductors. And the other area where they've been historically very strong and still today is in peripherals and laptops. So your Apple phones and computers. From a Canadian perspective, being able to connect to the ecosystem, the technology and innovation ecosystem of Taiwan is really quite important because, again, Taiwan as an economy is a really important partner, not just from a technology sense, but from a trading sense.
As with most countries, Canada does not have official diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but it nevertheless has constructive engagement in several fields. The two countries have representative offices which fulfill the obligations of traditional embassies. About 60,000 Canadians currently live in Taiwan, and approximately 200,000 people of Taiwanese descent currently live in Canada.
My policy advice to Canada in regard to Taiwan is to keep doing what we are already doing. I think we need to remove some of the restrictions we place on ourselves.
Canada should certainly continue to do what they have been doing, right? And they should also increase as much as possible the multiple trading relations and cultural, scholarly, technological, scientific exchanges with Taiwan.
Given that Canada has a one China policy in which it takes note of Beijing's contention that Taiwan is part of China, all interactions with Taiwan are perforce dragged into the China-Canada relationship. And Beijing is very sensitive to anything any country does with Taiwan that suggests statehood for Taiwan. Canadian policymakers should clearly understand what the language of our One China policy says and not confuse it with Beijing's One China principle. They should be willing to defend Canada's sovereign right to interact with whomever we want and also be ready to push back when Beijing tries to tell us how we should behave.
I think if we go back to our main principle of autonomy, I think what we have to be careful about is not getting roped into the Taiwan-China division, but rather to say we are interested in economic relations with the entire region. Taiwan is a major economic player in the region, and we want them to be part of a constellation of agreements that further Canada's economic and political interests.
At some point, if China begins to look like it will be in fact threatening military action to bring Taiwan into its orbit, as President Xi Jinping has indicated very clearly he would certainly like to do while he is in office, then Canada will have to stand with other countries and signal clearly, however necessary, that it is unacceptable.
But understanding that Taiwan is important and how we can interconnect with them is in a way that's not going to be upsetting. Is sometimes a challenge, but we should be actually doing this because it's in our interest to do so. There's different ways that we can do that and still respect the One China policy. Taiwan is a full member economy of APEC. And there's lots of ways that we can connect with Taiwan through APEC. We should also think about CPTPP. I don't think we want to lead on encouraging Taiwan to become a member amongst the group, but with other like-mindeds who have an interest in having Taiwan participate, we should be promoting that as an idea.